Welcome to the Loading Up Podcast. I'm your co-host, Brother Zay, and tonight we have producer Jay with us.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on, man? All right, let's get into the pleasantries of talking about our sponsors, because right now we have 3 of them. We have W Energy, get all your energy drinks, and even hydration sticks from W Energy. You can save 20% till the end of September by using code LUP. We also have NordVPN. Get all your VPN action right there on Nord by clicking the link in the description down below. And Starforge PCs. Click the link down below to see all the pre-built and custom-built PCs your heart contents. All right, that was it. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe. It's all free. You know, it gives us a chance to continue doing this show for you guys. As well as rate us on any podcast like Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Send those ratings through. Thank you, guys.
Yes,
all right.
Thank you.
Producer Jay, talk to me, man. What have you been playing?
So I've still been playing some Elden Ring. I actually went back to the base game because when I initially played, I had started a new game plus because I wanted to get all the achievements. And in order to do that, you don't have to do everything. Like, you can kind of just like speed run it essentially. Yeah. And that's what I did. So I did all the bosses that I needed to up until like I got the achievements that I needed, and that was it. And right when the DLC happened, I had to like get up to the boss that I needed to beat in order to start the DLC. And then that's it. And then I went right into the DLC. So yeah. I didn't do anything else. So then I wanted to change up my like armor. Yeah. No, my build is fine because like I'm doing more of like a strength build, but I also have a sword. I think it's like of Night and Fire or something like that. The Sword of Night and Fire.
Sword of Night and Flame.
Flame. There you go.
Yeah.
So I have that one. So I also have magic and what's the other one for fire? Is it all magic?
You have
Yeah. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. So like I do, I'm mostly like physical. Like I try to get up close, but for certain enemies, when I need to make like long range attacks, I can. So it's like it's a good build, but I was getting tired of my guy's looks. Like, I don't know. Have you ever heard of Fashion Souls? It's like a subreddit where they just like they show off how they look and like all the cool armor sets and stuff like that. So I just happened to be browsing and I was just like, man, I want to look cooler. Because one thing is in Dark Souls 3, I had like a really cool ass like armor set. And I wanted to have something similar. Because, right, I mean, before I had, oh, shit, what was it called? It was the scaled armor set, the scaled soldier armor set, or I don't remember exactly, but it was like, it looked like it had dragon scales on the armor. Okay. And it looks cool, but it's like, I had that for so long, I want to change it up and stuff like that. So that's when I started looking up stuff, and then I realized that there's some armor sets that are really cool, but it's in the areas that I didn't go to. So now I had to go back and redo the whole section just to get to the area that it was the mountaintops with the snow area.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I didn't even go there because I didn't have to.
Need to, yeah.
Yeah, so now I have to basically go back and do that, and it's
funny in Elden Ring when you're doing the DLC. If you go back to the main game, you feel super strong.
Oh yeah, no, I'm slicing through these enemies like butter. Like literally, I saw a bear. So in the DLC, like you can fight some bears or whatever, and like it took me a while to like take them down. But then I saw a bear in like the base game, and I was ready to like fight, and literally one shot them. I was like, oh, that was nice.
Yeah.
But it's like
that humbles you when you get into the DLC for sure.
Right, yeah. And I think that's probably why people were complaining about the difficulty, because they weren't prepared for how essentially it reset your level.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so now I've been doing that, so I'm gonna be doing that for a while. And yeah, honestly, that's really all I've been playing. I mean, I'm still playing the Dungeons of Hinterberg on my ROG Ally when I can, but other than that, that's what I've been trying to finish up because I want to actually start. Uh, I think I said I was gonna do Starfield,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna get back into Starfield eventually, but I need to do Elden Ring first, which is, and can I say, it is very interesting, I'll say, that the Elden Ring DLC, there's no achievements or trophies for it.
Yeah, there's none.
Yeah, so it's like,
Kind of sucks.
yeah, like honestly, like I'm not too crazy about achievements. Like I'll do
Oh,
it.
I am.
For most games I'm not. But for like a game that I care about that I really enjoy, like I'll get it. Like for Elden Ring, I got them all. For Metal Gear Solid, Mass Effect, like those games that I really enjoy, I'll take the time and effort to do it.
Yeah.
But for most games, it's whatever. But I don't know. There's like a sense of like accomplishment when you beat an enemy and you have the achievement or trophy to show for it. You know.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean it's not a big deal, but
No.
I wish I did have some type of achievements so that way I can like kind of track my progress and see how far I actually am. Because honestly, like I there if you didn't tell me like how far I was when I mentioned it last week, like I would have had no idea. I could have been close to the end. I could have been nowhere near the end. Like there's no way to tell because there's always more bosses. Like, and I just ran into a dragon that was there's like a bunch of enemies that are fighting it, and then you could just watch them fight, and I mean they only take like a quarter of the health down.
Yeah,
But
you
yeah,
had
it's just like what yeah, you basically have to do all the work. So and then I try to like sneak in and get attacks and stuff, but yeah, so like I don't know. Like I don't know how far along that is. Like it's just anyway. That's what I've been playing.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. I've been playing Star Wars Outlaws. I did the gameplay last week for the podcast, but
Yes.
I just picked up right where I left off on my Xbox, and I've just been playing ever since. And I'm like 27 hours in, and I'm pulling up on the end of the game because it's like it says, this is you can't do any contracts or anything else until you beat this mission. So it's like right toward the end. So I'm like, I'm
Mm.
right there. So I stopped. I was like, wait a second, I still got things to do.
Yeah.
So, but I'm really liking the game. The story is good. It's worth playing through. Um, has some really good
Is it
cameos
worth
in
it
it.
for I was gonna say, is it worth it for like a Star Wars fan? Like is
And
there
yeah, if you're a Star Wars fan, you'll love the game. You love the game. The
okay.
the world building itself and how it looks um and how it puts you into certain situations. If you're a Star Wars fan, you'll love the game. But be warned, the graphics look very dated. I'm talking about like for character models. I said this last week. I'll say it again because although I'm having fun with the game, it doesn't look pretty when you're talking to a NPC, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Eh,
Like it's 2024. They should look really good.
I think it's just a matter and it is very weird that developers cuz like I don't know, did we ever talk about or maybe that was like one of the weeks we took off about Avowed and like the frame rate or the supposed frame rate that it's going to be running at or stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's supposed to be running at 30 frames.
Yeah, and when they interviewed the developers, like it it sh- it bog it doesn't boggle my mind because I know why they do it, but it's just like it's very weird that to hear developers say like, "Oh, we want to push 4K, we want to push the fidelity and the graphics and the all this and that," and like basically like just all the glitz and glamour of like the graphics and stuff like that. But it's like, is that really necessary? Like, I don't understand why developers try and like sacrifice performance just to make it prettier. Like, a lot of games that are successful aren't the prettiest. Like if you look
Well,
at all the most successful, look at freaking Minecraft. Minecraft is like the quintessential example of a game that's like bare bones looking, but it's fun and it's very successful. It's the most one of the most successful games, I think, next to Tetris. So it's like, and Tetris, like there you go. Like it's the most basic game you can be,
yeah.
and it's super successful. So it's just like I don't understand why developers continue to choose like graphics and particle effects and all that stuff over actual performance. It's very frustrating, and I wish they would at least give like options, you know, like
Yeah.
if you want that stuff, you can have it, but if you want to turn it off to have better performance, you can have that too. Like why is that only a PC option? I
I mean, I guess it's sort of like they want it to run the best it can on the console, so that's what they do. Ultimately, even though the character models in Star Wars Outlaws are not that great looking, it's still a really fun game. There are not as many stealth like those stealth missions where they force you to be stealthy. You kind of have to only do that in the beginning of the game because your reputation with the syndicates aren't all that high. And if they're not that high, you kind of have to be stealthy. But right
Right.
now, I have all the syndicates either at good or excellent, which is like one of the highest. So it's like I can literally just walk into places no problem. There's not toward the middle of the game. There's not very many places unless you're screwing over a syndicate where you have to only do stealth, and that was a big complaint I saw online.
Is there
Um,
like a kind of like a morality system?
it's not really a morality system. It's more like because you're a thief. You're picking up contracts and you're stealing from either the Empire or one other syndicate over the other, and
Yeah.
your choices are every sort of contract that you do has a choice whether you can honor the contract or say no, the hell with that contract. I'm gonna give it to like the Huts.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the contract was originally Crimson Dawn. So your reputation for Crimson Dawn will go down and your Huts will go up. So it's sort of like you gotta pick and choose your battles. Do you want more credits or do you want good reputation?
Right. Yeah.
So it's not really a morality thing. But either way, it's been a lot of fun playing it. I'm almost at the end, and I'll probably finish it by the weekend. I've also been playing Divinity Original Sin 2. It's our Sunday game that we've been playing. We're almost into Act 3 of the game. And it's sort of like, I don't know, we talked about it before. It's action or critical action RPG,
Yeah.
critical. Yeah, so it's like, it's been really fun. The story's really good. And we're
That's
getting,
by Larian, right?
yes, it is by Larian Studios,
Okay.
makers of Baldur's Gate 3. I'm waiting for the Baldur's Gate 3 update where they had put mods onto the PC and console version of the game. That's going to be interesting because I want to load back up into a Dark Urge playthrough on Baldur's Gate 3 so I can play like an evil character but with mods. Since I already
Nice.
beat the game twice.
Yeah, no, the mods are what's gonna keep that game going on forever. Like,
For
and
sure.
I mean, that's what most like these RPG games rely on.
Yeah.
Um, like even Starfield, like that's gonna
Yeah.
see a huge. I mean, they already started adding mods, so even Fallout, like just recently they had the Fallout London mod that got pushed out. So, and that's a big overhaul mod. So like it's cool to see that even now, like with the mods entering consoles, that's
Yeah.
like something really new.
Unheard of.
Yeah,
And
and
it's really great.
yeah, I just wish, I hope, and I get maybe why they would have to do that, but like there's like limitations, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I hope that mods being present on like console kind of like makes it more accessible for people who wouldn't necessarily use mods.
Yeah.
and for like Microsoft and Sony to be more welcoming of them. I mean,
Well,
it makes more sense for Microsoft because they own Bethesda. So
yes,
like,
exactly. I was just gonna say Bethesda did it with Skyrim on the console like a while ago.
yeah, they were like
And
the
it was
first one.
really, yeah, it was really, really great the way they implemented it. But it does, so when you're playing with mods, it sort of like disables achievements. So people who want to go for achievements don't
I
do it
mean,
right
you
away
can
on your first playthrough.
yeah, I mean, but that's I think it's probably it's tied to your save file. So like, I'm sure if you just have a separate save for the mod,
Mm,
then
true, true.
but
But either way, that game I'm waiting to get back into when the mods drop for that, and that's what I've been
actually,
playing. I also you see me I've been playing Chivalry 2,
yeah,
which I always go back to every now and then because it's just plain carnage and fun.
yeah. You were talking about Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about starting it soon as a co-op game for me and my fiance.
Oh, you guys would love it.
Yeah, because she was mentioning because she got it for me for Christmas,
Mhm.
and I haven't even started it yet. So, so she brought it up recently. I was like, oh, we could play that together, like co-op. And
Yes.
she was like, no, is it like separate, like where you got to be on a separate? Like, I said, no, one console co-op. So,
Yeah, you guys should definitely do that. It will be really great. The story is amazing. I don't know if you guys ever played a game like that before.
well, we've played actual D&D together.
Oh,
So,
so you're gonna love it. You're gonna
yeah,
absolutely love it.
that's what I was saying. So,
Yeah, you should do it. Go right now. Go right now.
no, all right, all right. See ya. Short episode this week.
All right, let's get into some news. Because we have some pretty crazy news this week. Uh, after Concord was released on the 22nd or 23rd of August, um, it was selling really bad. I think it was less than 30,000 sales in numbers, not dollars, in numbers. Less than 30,000 units were sold. And it turns out, as of the release of this podcast, the game will be officially shut down. Sony shut down Concord and is giving out refunds to anybody who purchased it digitally, on Steam, on PlayStation, and they advise anybody who bought the game physical to go back to the retailer for, to see if they can get a refund. But it's absolutely insane. This game, Concord, came out very lackluster, didn't do well in reviews, didn't do very, very well with the player counts. They spent 8 years in development, and it took less than 2 weeks for this game to completely die. Completely unheard of. Like, you can still
Yeah.
play Anthem and Redfall. This game, as of the release of this podcast, will completely be shut down. You cannot play it, which is absolutely insane to me.
Yeah, it's really so it's hard to pinpoint exactly like what went wrong because if you ask the people who actually played the game and from what I've seen, there's nothing like actually wrong with the game itself. Like it does what it's supposed to do, like fine. Like it's a hero shooter, it's first person, like multiplayer, live service, so it's like it does all that okay, like it does all that fine, but there just wasn't any interest. Nobody cared about this game.
I mean,
Even from the get-go, like when they first showed it off. Like I
yeah,
know when they first announced it, like nobody really knew what it was. It was really just like the name and then that's it. So
yeah.
there was some kind of like, okay, maybe like it's space, sci-fi, like what's it gonna be? But then when they revealed it, like nobody cared. And I think a lot of people they mistake that lack of interest as hate. I don't think people like actively hated the game. I think they just didn't care about it enough and they were kind of like making fun of people who thought they were hating on the game, you know? Um Ultimately it's just very generic. I mean, we've had this conversation before
Yeah.
and honestly, Sony basically bailing out this early kind of shows that they didn't really care about this game. And I I mean, I've had like conversations on Twitter with people, and the sentiment is that Sony basically set this game out to die because they knew what it was doing. They knew what how well or how bad it was being received, and they still put it out. Like, granted, they had to because, you know, obligations or whatever. They already showed it off. They need something other than Astro, which we'll talk about later. So yeah, they needed something first party to show off, and this was just it. And honestly, it shouldn't be too much of a surprise, because when Jim Ryan was head of PlayStation, he basically, like, he was all gung-ho about like live service and stuff like that. So Concord was part of that, and so was Factions, but they canceled that. And so is Fair Games, and so is Marathon. Now, we don't know if they have any more. We know that they canceled a bunch of them since Jim Ryan left.
Well,
because
it was 12, and they canceled 6.
Yeah, so now they have 6 more that are still in development.
Is Concord ported at 6? Because then
I don't know. That's what I was just about
more.
Yeah, I was just about to ask. Is Concord and Fair Games and Marathon part of that? Because then they really only have 3, but they had a lot more. Yeah. And I think you have to guess that Jim Ryan knew that some of these were gonna be duds. Like, there's just no way with the amount that they had in development. There's no way all of them were gonna be a success. And I think they got lucky with Helldivers 2, and that turned out to be a success. But then they got unlucky with Concord, and then that was the dud. So it's like, is it worth continuing this? Who knows? Because the main thing that Sony has been kind of lacking in is revenue. And yeah, you can look at, oh, they're selling a lot of PlayStations, they're still selling the first party games, but it's not enough. With rising costs of development, it's not enough to sustain that level of quality that people are expecting now. And that's another thing too, because a lot of PlayStation gamers who buy the first party games, they expect a certain level of quality to them that it requires a higher budget to achieve. And now that these games are taking longer, they need more. So it's like, Sony needs that constant revenue stream. And they need a success in live service in order to get that. It's either that, or we're going to start seeing way more layoffs in the future. So I think for the people who are like totally against live service, I get it. But realistically, they need to be in live service, or else they're not going to be able to sustain themselves. That's why Microsoft, like, yeah, they bought Minecraft, they bought Diablo and World of Warcraft. Yeah, there's a reason for that. They bought it so that way they can be sustainable going forward. It was a calculated move because, I mean, they also have Sea of Thieves and stuff like that, but they need that constant revenue stream, and that's what's going to keep Xbox, the brand, afloat. For all the talk about Xbox is dying or whatever, it ain't going nowhere, specifically because of these live service games being so successful. So, ultimately, Concord was just not it. And I don't know what they could have done to save it, because it's not as easy as just making it free to play, because that requires a whole bunch of, like, retooling of the revenue strategy on how they were going to make money off of it and stuff like that. But you already charge people $40, and then, I mean, it's good that they're letting them get the refunds, but like, if you made it free to play, like, are those people going to even bother coming back? Like, there's no guarantee.
I'll be honest, even if it is free to play, I wouldn't play it. And not just it was uninteresting, as people say it is, or even the characters are uninteresting. Like, I've been watching people actually play it. Like Destin Legiri, he played it on stream, and he was playing as one of the best classes with a sniper, and it took like 5 or 6 shots in the head with a sniper rifle to kill a person. Right there, I was watching him play. I was like, no way, this is not like if you shoot somebody on Overwatch, if you're a Widowmaker, you shoot somebody in the head, they're dead unless
That's
they
it.
have
No.
unless they're like a tank that can take 2 shots. You know what I'm saying? But if you
Yeah.
shoot somebody in the head, they're dead. Like there are mechanics that they could have worked to make the game better, but apparently Sony was like, nah, this is not working for us, and just completely shut it down. Which is
Yeah.
what's unheard of, and even more, what's unheard of is the refund. Which Sony doesn't give out refunds.
Yeah.
Sony keeps
That
their
is
money.
actually true.
Sony
They're
keeps
they're
their
very
money.
stingy. Like it's very hard to get a refund from Sony. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that they're giving out potentially 30,000 or 25,000 customers a $40 refund, they're losing big time. We're
Yeah.
talking hundreds of millions of dollars lost on this game. And I don't think it's what people have been saying. There are a lot of people online talking about, oh, this is what happens when a game goes woke. I don't think the game
Yeah.
was
No.
really that
That.
woke in general. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't interesting at all. We
Yeah.
talked about it last week how at least Overwatch was interesting. They had different characters and they had interactions with each other on their little anime shorts, and it was fun to play with these characters. It was interesting. You wanted to learn more. When they came out with an animated short, it was like a big thing. And speaking of anime shorts, they're gonna release one episode of the anime
Oh,
short
yeah.
for Concord. And it's like, what do you do with that? Do you continue that, or does that get shut down too, just like the game?
I think
Because it's very uninteresting. Like the characters are just not there. There's no real story, no real lore behind it. Sure, the gunplay may seem right, but when the mechanics are off, you have an uninteresting story and uninteresting characters who don't look very good. It doesn't make sense to continue going, and that's why I think they shut it down.
yeah. No, I think yeah, it was basically a mercy killing. Like there's been other developers and games that have gone through the ringer essentially like even the Avengers. Like that was like really it took a hard hit in the beginning. What saved it though was the single player. Like that was at least
Yeah.
interesting enough to keep people interested.
Yeah.
But it took a lot for it to finally be like, okay, we're giving up. Same thing with Anthem. Like it took a lot. It took months, and they were even advertising a whole relaunch of the game. Like they were literally saying like, no, we're gonna essentially re-release this game the way it was supposed to or whatever, and then that it still got canceled.
It still failed.
So yeah, it still failed. Like they just never did it. They just stopped. They was like, nah.
No, they
Uh,
didn't. It just was bad.
no, they didn't. No, I'm talking about like
Anthem?
literally Anthem. They were gonna relaunch the game. Like it was gonna be completely different. Like
Oh, you're
everything
right.
was gonna be different.
No, all they did was the DLC, that last DLC, and that was it.
Yeah, they did the DLC and then they did some patches or whatever, but like no, the update that they were planning was gonna be like a complete overhaul of the game. It was essentially, I think it wasn't Anthem 2, it was like Anthem 2.0 or something like that. Like literally they were gonna like go straight to a like a kind of like a sequel or whatever. But yeah, and then that got canceled.
And it's
So
a shame because that game was actually fun. It had good game mechanics,
yeah, that was actually
You were
fun to
Iron
play.
Man, you're flying around with these mech suits. It was
Yeah.
actually really fun. But they had some things in there that just didn't work.
Yeah, I think it was just there was nothing to it, like there was nothing really to do once you did everything that they had. It's something similar to like Halo Infinite. Like it was great functionally, it worked perfectly. It was fun to play and stuff like that, but there just wasn't enough content.
Yeah.
Um
Well, that was at launch.
at launch, yeah, now it has a healthy amount of content
Yeah,
and it's
now-
kind of like reviving itself or whatever. But yeah, it's just going back to it, like the fact that they pulled the plug this early is just like they didn't care. Like they didn't want this. They didn't want to put up with it because if they really did care, they would just be like, okay, we'll refocus. We'll keep the servers online for those that want to play, but we're gonna make sure like to make this. They want to like they would say we want to make this the game that we want it to be and stuff like that. But the fact that they're just giving it up Like,
Yeah.
that's it. It's
Pe-
GG.
people have taken the statement them the Concord developers and said, well, maybe they're gonna eventually do a rebrand, because it doesn't say like goodbye forever or anything like that. It's like, it's sort of like they left the door open to potentially come back and rebrand itself as maybe a different game after they sort of rework things.
I
It
mean,
left that door open, but I think once Sony gave the refunds, I think that was it. It was done.
yeah, the refund thing, that's basically like, if it's not free to play, whatever it is that comes back, then just don't even bother.
Yeah. Even
But
at free to play, you're going up against juggernauts. You're going up against
yeah, now it's even
Warzone.
worse. Yeah.
You're going up against Warzone, Rivals, Overwatch 2. You're going up against like just
Apex.
Apex. Yes, it's so much free to play, like hero shooters or just action shooters in general.
Yeah.
That the market is saturated, and I'm sorry, but Black Ops 6 beta just happened, and I think Xbox reported just over that weekend 6 million more users on Game Pass because of the beta. That's just a beta. Now imagine when the game comes out and it drops on Game Pass. It's not competing with Call of Duty.
Right. Yeah.
So them pulling the plug on it was, like you said earlier, a mercy killing.
Yeah. And it sucks because, like, of all the games to cancel, they chose to cancel Factions and then let this one live to essentially die.
They also canceled the Marvel Spider-Man open world.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
When
Forgot
everybody
about
could be a
that.
different Spider-Man and play together. That would have been amazing.
Yeah, that one.
I'm sorry, my son would have to give up the PS5 for me to play that.
That probably would have been on PC as well, because I think that's the main thing too. That, like,
Yeah.
a lot of these live service games that they're planning, PlayStation is banking on PC supporting it, because if you look at
It has to support.
Helldivers, yeah,
PC has to support their live service games, because, like you see with Concord, PlayStation gamers just don't buy games. I'm sorry, but they're not out there buying games. They're not out there supporting the devs like they say they do on Twitter. If that was the case, Concord would be a success.
yeah. I mean, hopefully lessons can be learned from this, and Sony will take a look at their live service strategy a little bit closer and stop and not just push out a game just to have it out there. And I don't know. And for the record, I don't think they should just try and, like, bring back because what I've seen is like, oh, like, if Sony would have brought back Killzone and they would have brought back Resistance and SOCOM, it's like, no, those games failed for a reason. Like, they're not around anymore for a reason. Like, they were not good in their last showing. Let's not dig up the grave and kill it again. Like, do something new.
Well, the head of PlayStation just came out and was talking about how Sony doesn't have enough original IPs in order for games, movies, anime. So this is coming from the horse's mouth itself.
Yeah.
They do not have enough original IPs that they've grown and fostered. Despite what people tell you online, they don't. They purchased almost all of their IPs from third-party companies, and they've grown them inside them from the third-party deals.
Yeah.
So this is coming from Sony themselves. They just don't have enough original IPs.
I don't think it's that they don't have enough original IPs. I just don't think that they want to go to the well in terms of, like, because, like, these games aren't selling as much as they need to in order to be worth investing heavily into them. Like, yeah, they could release another Sly Cooper. Yeah, they could do another Uncharted or Jack and Daxter and stuff like that. But ultimately, unless they're releasing day and day in PC, it's just gonna sell the same amount as the last one. Which, it what was it? It'll be like 10 million or something like that, which is great. But again, going back to what I said before, it's not enough. If you want to have as much as they want, they're gonna need more. They need more funds. They need more money. They need more sales. And since
Especially,
Sony,
go ahead.
no, sorry, since Sony for so long has been sales oriented first, like that's all they cared about. Now they're starting to see Microsoft making so much money off of live service. They're starting to see all these other publishers making money off of live service. Take-Two, Ubisoft, and
Instant.
EA and Tencent and all these other studios or publishers making money off of live service. Sony is essentially late to the game at that, and now they're struggling because of it. They took too long to get their multiplayer aspirations in check, and now they're gonna struggle, and this is just gonna be it. Like that, this is what happens when you try to double down on just single player. You miss out on the trends. And yeah, honestly, I think for gamers, it seems like a good thing, because obviously, like, most gamers prefer single player games. Not to say that there's anything wrong with like multiplayer or anything, but like for the most part, we would enjoy more single player games. Because I remember at one point, like, felt like every game had like multiplayer just tacked onto it, and it was very annoying. So I think there is a place for single player, but it needs to be a balance. Again, I feel like every time, like, it's always about balance. It's always one publisher leaning too much on one side, and it's like, it's not gonna cut it.
In the words of Thanos, it needs to be perfectly balanced.
Exactly.
Definitely not. I mean, even Rocksteady is not perfectly balanced.
Oh,
After Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League.
Suicide Squad is still going,
Oh,
surprisingly.
Crazy. So Suicide Squad,
you know what the
Kill
crazy?
the Justice League.
You know what the craziest thing I saw, and I posted on Twitter. I was just like, "Yo, Foam Stars is still around longer than Concord."
Yeah, but that went free to play.
No, I know, but it's still around. It's like, it's not. They haven't shut down the servers. Freaking Splatoon at home is still alive and kicking while Concord is dead.
Yeah. Well, even
allegedly, we don't know.
Even though Suicide Squad failed and they lost $200 million, WB lost $200 million on the failure of Suicide Squad. Rocksteady is being hit now with layoffs. They don't disclose the exact amount of layoffs, but the number that they do have is about 33 people for like one department, 15 for another department. They're just getting hit with layoffs, and a lot of the people that they did say was hit was from the quality assurance department. So it seems like they're pointing the fingers at them and saying, it's your fault. We put this game out.
Why didn't you tell us it was a bad game? Like,
use
your eyes.
So which absolutely sucks. You know, this is again why we talked about having unions in video games now. I think all publishers and all developers need to be part of a union in some way or some form, because the cost of these games to make, going upwards of $200-300 million, is unsustainable if they're not selling millions of copies of these games. And sometimes they're just not going to hit that mark. So does that mean that every time a game doesn't hit their mark, there's going to be massive layoffs? It's almost sickening the way the industry has sort of evolved into this. Well, you didn't make a hit, you're losing your job. It's crazy.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's just the over-reliance on AAA that's what's killing the industry and causing all of these layoffs. Because realistically, like, all that needs to happen is just lower these budgets. Stop making these $300 million, $400 million games, and start focusing on the smaller games. Like, you don't need to spend so much money to make a hit. Like I said before, there's so many games out there that are extremely popular, extremely successful, that they're indie games with lower budgets. So it's like, we need to start basically like rolling it back and stop needing, or publishers need to stop needing, feeling. I'm sorry, I'm like really tongue tied right here. They need to stop feeling it necessary to have so many AAA games, because that's not what's gonna make it. Like, now it's the live service. Now you're gonna start seeing developers like focus on that, and that's gonna like oversaturate the market. So it's like these developers are always trying to freaking follow trends, and that's what's causing all of this.
Yeah.
So I hope that ultimately going forward, like, these developers are gonna stop focusing too much on the budget of these games and just focus on the creative aspect, because honestly that's what's gonna create the next huge game, because that's how it starts. Like, it's all about creativity. And then, but these publishers, they just care about money. I mean,
Yeah.
that's all it is. And they're gonna get it one way or another, whether it's cost cutting and layoffs. But it's this is the video game crash that we keep talking about, that people say they want. This is what it is. It's layoffs, and we've said it before. We will keep saying it.
Yeah, the latest crash of the video game industry from Visions of Mana, they just released their game less than a week ago. I think 2 days after the release of the game, Tencent and NetEase started scaling back their investments in Japanese video games and completely shut down Oka Studios, which just released Visions of Mana. 2 days after the release, they cut out the whole studio. They gutted it. They only have a very few people left to make sure the game is running through the launch, which is absolutely insane to me. Like, you just released Visions of Mana. It's released everywhere, Xbox, PlayStation, everywhere. So you know that the sale numbers are going to be very decent at the very least, because it's releasing all over the place. And yet this company just decided, yeah, we're not going to invest in Japanese gaming studios anymore. We're completely shutting you down. So you're celebrating the release of your game. It's successful. It's rating well on Metacritic. It's doing well in sales. And then the very next day, you lost your job. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah. It's just this is what the publishers are gonna resort to. Not taking hits in the budget, or like lowering the budget, or even taking pay cuts or anything like that. No, just let people go. Close down studios. That's the easiest way out.
Yeah. Yeah. And then these companies, Tencent and NetEase, they're so big. They're actually way bigger than like Microsoft and Sony. And they're just out there just completely destroying the market by closing different studios. They're like, okay, this studio's not working. Just close it. Just close it.
Yeah.
Whether it be Japanese video game studios or Chinese studios, they're just closing down whatever's not working for them, and in hopes to continue to raise the pockets of these shareholders, because that's all they care about. That's all they care about, is if the shareholders and the people who are giving them the money can continue to make more money. They don't care about the gamers or the consumers. They don't care about us. They just want more money. And if they're not seeing it go up even in the slightest, they're shutting you down.
Yeah. It's very cutthroat. And I feel like it's only gotten worse, and it's going to get worse. And honestly, it shines a light on the lesser. I don't want to call them lesser, because some of these games are freaking better than the big AAA games, like the indie games. It shines a light on them more so, and hopefully it encourages developers to become independent, because being part of these like publishers, these big publishers who just don't care about anything other than profit and revenue. So and honestly, like, I can't imagine anybody wanting to get into the video game industry anytime soon. Like, with everything that's going on, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, yeah, and just to show you how much for video game companies is just fixated on revenue and making more revenue. This past week, let's just talk about a little bit about Nvidia. Nvidia is right behind Apple when its valuation hit $3 trillion, and for the longest time, they seem to be unaffected by any sort of outside influence with their stocks and their valuation. While all the companies were just going down, Nvidia was just rising and continued to rise. Well, this past Tuesday, they dropped almost 10% in shares, erasing $279 billion from the company. They erased
Look,
so much money from Nvidia's 10%, erased so much money that the next 12 companies still didn't even value the $278 billion that they lost.
that's crazy.
It's absolutely insane. So this goes to show you how big of the gaming companies, these big companies, focus all on revenue. Now all eyes are on Nvidia because the market sort of had a little freak out and everything sort of dropped down because
I
Nvidia, who was this staple where they nothing could affect them, now all of a sudden something affected them and their stocks were down. The market sort of tumbled a little bit.
I think honestly though, I think the main thing that affected this was the whole AI stuff, because
Of
that's
course,
what caused them to reach the first evaluation to begin with. It
yeah.
was the reliance on graphics cards to support companies' AI future or whatever. But the fact that AI is not taking off the way companies thought it would
Mhm.
is now starting to affect companies like Nvidia, even like Microsoft and Apple and all these companies that heavily invested into it. There's no payoff for it. They're basically trying to like scrape together what they can from AI and I guess not downplay it, but like put less emphasis on it. Because that's what main the graphics cards were being used for. They were just basically like um because I've used like AI stuff before, like locally, and it uses the graphics card in order to achieve what like you're trying to do. Like there's this, I have like a like it's kind of like an upscaler that I use. And literally sometimes when I'm like using it for like pictures, it's what how I get like high quality images and stuff like that. They when I do it, I can hear my graphics card like churning because it's using that energy to make like output it. And like now imagine that like a farm of those graphics cards doing it for like cloud-based AI and stuff like that. So it's honestly, and then also the whole crypto stuff that kind of fell off the face of the earth. There's a lot of things that surprisingly the Nvidia kind of supported unintentionally,
Yeah.
and yeah, now they're seeing the results of it. It's not taking off as they thought, and yeah, I mean,
Yeah, two
I
hundred
don't know
seventy
how
billion
this.
dollars gone.
Yeah, I don't know how this affects them going forward. I mean, I don't
I
think
mean,
it's.
the stock is already sort of recovering. It dropped 10%, hundreds of dollars in shares, but now it's already up $100. So it's going to regulate itself. The market will always do this.
Yes,
Some way
yes.
or some fashion, the market will always regulate itself. They'll have drops and they'll go up. So I'm not too worried, but it was just sort of an example to show you that these companies are focused solely on revenue and how much money and stocks that they can have so that way their shareholders can make more money and no reasons to invest more in gaming. That this is a prime example, and it's just never gonna go away. This is what it is. This is the future of gaming. Sure, we game. All we do as gamers, we're just sitting there, we're playing a game. But the back end, years in the making, it's taking so much money, time, and effort to make this game just get to us while we're sitting on our couch or our computer chair playing these games. And all they care about is the dollar sign. And if that dollar sign is not there, or if it's less than what they put into it, you're gonna be screwed.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll move on from this because it's just a sad state of closing studios and
Yeah. Just very
yeah.
depressing.
Yeah. Let's get into other depressing news. Is it Yama Games CEO? They creating a game called Inatra, the last song. It's a Souls-like based on Italian folklore. And the game is set to come out everywhere, but the Xbox Series version of the game was delayed. And nobody knew why it was delayed. And then the CEO decided to blast Xbox for their lack of support and getting in contact with them just a week or two away from release. So he said some pretty damning things. CEO really sort of went in and said that they don't care about Xbox gamers. They don't care about us. And it sort of was like, whoa, this is out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like we knew it was delayed on Xbox. We didn't know why. We didn't get a reason. But then all of a sudden the CEO came out of nowhere talking like Xbox didn't care at all. And I think that sort of lit a fire because that sort of like went around social media like crazy. Everybody was talking about it. And now the official update is that Phil Spencer himself and Microsoft both reached out to Yama Games and are working closely now to bring the game to Xbox. So they originally stated, "Oh, they don't care about us, so it's indefinitely canceled on Xbox." But I guess now from the backlash that people have been bringing up both online and from the indie developers as well, Xbox was like, all right, we got to fix this. This is a really bad look. And it absolutely is.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have developers waiting weeks upon weeks for an answer so they can either update something for their game so they can release it. It's absolutely a major failure on Microsoft's part. I'm glad that they are working to fix it, but it should have gotten to the point where the CEO of the developers just came out and blasted Microsoft online. Like, if that's what it takes to get you noticed within the Microsoft ecosystem, how they interact with developers to release a game, something needs to change.
Yeah. Yeah, this whole situation is very odd because this is the second time that something like this has happened. There was another game that I remember this happening for, very similar situation where like they were trying to get in contact with Microsoft and they weren't getting back to them and stuff like that. Now, granted, this is it's kind of an anomaly because we don't hear about it often. I mean, granted, maybe this happens more often than we know, but we only know about these two incidents. And it got to the point where they had to essentially like cancel their game for Xbox or indefinitely delay it. And it was because Microsoft just wasn't responding to them. Now, I don't know the process of these indie developers and how to get their game certified and stuff like that, so I can't really speak to that part, but it's just very odd that this is happening seemingly very frequent. Now, it's social media, it's gonna be amplified and spread and stuff like that, so it makes it seem like it's a bigger issue than it might be, because the fact that it's only happened twice right now, and granted, again, we don't know if it's happening more often, but we've only heard about it twice. But the fact that it's happening is just very weird. But I'm glad that Microsoft is reaching out and working on them or working with them to get it out. And because I think they said the game was ready. Like, it wasn't even a Series S issue like some people were trying to make it seem like. It was just they wouldn't respond. And it could be a bug in the system, the way it's set up, or I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
But
Definitely an issue with like the Xbox support like system.
yes,
It's
and
a
honestly, that even extends to like consumer level, because
yeah.
I know of certain situations where people, they get banned mistakenly, or like they get their account hacked and stuff like that, and Microsoft support is like nowhere to be found. Radio silence. And they're not the only ones, honestly. Like, I got my Facebook account hacked, you know this,
Yeah.
and I tried to reach out to Facebook support and nothing, literally zero response. And I tried to do exactly what they say. They say like upload your ID so that way you can verify and stuff. Nothing, no contact. No, there's not even an email. There's nobody to contact. It's all automated, and I think that's the issue.
Oh
That
yeah, definitely.
Microsoft and a lot of these companies, they're relying so much on automated systems that there's situations where people fall through the cracks. And in the case of these developers, I think that's probably what happened. They fell through a crack, and they had no choice but to kind of amplify it so that way they can get out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
What
so at least though, Microsoft is, righting the wrong,
they are fixing the issue. They got in contact with them, and they're gonna make it come out on Xbox, if not like sooner than after the release, or on actual release date where everyone else, which is good. But
Yes.
when we talk about like support, like with Microsoft support, it wasn't always like this for Microsoft. I remember a time where you can get on the phone and call somebody from Microsoft support. I think ever since Satya Nadella became like the CEO of Microsoft, he made so many changes within Microsoft and Xbox that it's now just gotten worse.
Yeah.
Specifically with we're talking about with like support.
Yes.
Like if it's all automated, it's all done by email, or nobody's actually behind this.
Yeah. Or it
You
takes
can
a
pick up
lot.
the phone. Yeah, it takes a
Yeah.
lot. It takes a lot.
Yeah,
Yes.
to finally get somebody or whatever.
Yeah, which is absolutely ridiculous. You should have some sort of customer support. You know, if not for just the customers, we're talking about your developers, for crying out loud.
Right.
Developers that are bringing games to your console, to your ecosystem, where people can buy it, you can make money, and you're just dropping the ball on that. That's completely unnecessary, and it should not happen at all.
Right. Completely agree.
Yeah. And I think it was a few weeks ago, we were talking about how Marvel's Capcom Fighting Collection, the arcade classics, it wasn't gonna come to Xbox at all.
Yeah.
Because they had like some sort of issue on like a technical issue, right?
Yes.
So it wasn't coming out for Xbox. Well, apparently Microsoft's been working overtime with these developers, because they've also decided to fix that. And now the Fighting Collection will be coming to Xbox. It says these games will be coming September 12th, 2024. So really soon. It just says, but also the Xbox version will have a release window of this year, but no exact date. So it is sort of a slight delay, but they did fix it, and it went from it's not coming to Xbox to it's coming this year, which is the no when.
Right. And
So
I mean, it goes to show like it was a technical
yeah,
issue. It wasn't like they couldn't do it. It wasn't like a deal or anything like that. It was just some, I don't know exactly what it was. It was the something with the engine that these games were using,
yeah,
that it wasn't easily portable to Xbox for whatever reason, and it was just more of like a cost-effective version. Like because if you look at the release, I mean, I'm sure we talked about it when they got announced. It's coming to PS4 and Switch and PC, but it's the PS4 version. It's not PS5.
PS5. Yeah, exactly.
So the issue is that I think that they probably wanted to port it to the Xbox One, but because Xbox One is not really supported anymore as an official release platform, they just couldn't do it. Like there was no pathway to do it essentially.
Yeah.
But I guess Microsoft is making the exception for well, I don't know if it's just for these games. I would assume they're gonna do it widespread because there's a lot of other games that are facing similar issues. Namely the Monster Hunter Stories, I think. Also the Mega Man BattleNet series. There's some other games. Oddly enough,
that are on that sort of same engine or
yes,
didn't like it that just don't they just don't work well with what we have today in the current generation. So that's the sort of technical hurdle that these developers have to go over. And for some reason, they just can't do it. Either they don't have enough money to continue sort of that R&D to make it available for the
I
newer
think
consoles, or
I think it was
can do it.
yeah, no, I think they could do it. I just think it wasn't cost effective.
Yeah,
Because these games are very old, so importing them probably would have cost them more money than it's worth. And I think that's why they didn't want to even bother. Because it's just like if it's gonna cost more money than they would even make back, then why do it, you know?
yeah. I mean, they're gonna have to, I hope the people who were loud about this online, because there was a lot of people talking crap about it, saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's not coming to Xbox. This is a travesty." I hope they now support this when it does come out and actually purchase it to make it worthwhile. Because if, let's say, it comes out, it doesn't sell well on Xbox, right? Microsoft would take a now second look and say, well, maybe we wouldn't support the next game that has this sort of technical issue because it just won't sell anyway, you know? And that sort of puts it like a double-edged sword, you know?
Yeah.
You
Well,
gotta,
I don't think these games. See, I also don't think these games like are. I don't think they're going into it expecting like massive amounts of sales. So I think that's also played into it as well. That it's like they probably have an idea how much they're gonna make back, and it probably just costs too much to port it to modern systems to justify it.
yeah.
Now, granted, I don't. This is just me guessing. I don't know for sure or anything like that.
Speculation from us.
Speculation, yeah. But either way, I'm glad that it's being rectified, and it's good that Microsoft is being open to fixing, like I said before, righting their wrongs. But it is just a little annoying that it takes a social media push to get them to do stuff like this. Like, why is it a thing anyway? Like, why does it take people voicing their frustrations about it in order to get people, or in order to get people, people at Xbox to do anything?
Yeah.
Like, you should know that this is not a good look. Like, it's just completely avoidable, and it's just I don't understand. Maybe it's just because they're seemingly more focused on integrating ABK that they're just letting these things like slide unintentionally. I don't know. It's just very weird that all of this is happening in such like a short time span. Like this year, I feel like all of this is happening just within the past like 9 months.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
anyway, it's still good, and I'm glad to see. I mean, I'm not really a big fan like of like the fighting games and stuff like that, but for people who are, I'm glad that it's happening.
Definitely. Every game should be pretty much everywhere. Wherever you want to play, you should be able to boot it up and play it. And
Right.
the fact that it was going to be missed on Xbox was a big deal, but now it's not. They're fixing it. They're working on it, so it's good.
Yes.
Good.
Very good.
Yeah. We're going to talk more about speculation. This one with Xbox and Activision games. Two games in particular, Transformer games from the 360 days. Supposedly they were posted on the Australian rating boards, and it's sort of like the rating boards for what they rate games in Australia, so that way the parents can know exactly if they can buy it for their kids or whatnot. And the Transformers games, Fall of Cybertron and War of Cybertron, are the ones that people are thinking these two Transformer games can be listed. And if they're being listed in Australia, people are speculating that soon these ABK games are coming to Xbox. And people have been tempting successfully downloading these games through the Xbox app. Of course, they posted it online and you can't do it anymore. Trust me, I tried. Um, as soon as it went on viral online, I tried and it was just done. You couldn't download these games anymore. At least not yet. So it's sort of like we're speculating that these games are coming to Xbox or Game Pass soon, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yes. I mean, we heard about this, I think, like a few weeks ago, that Microsoft is working to get previously delisted games relisted. I don't know if they were trying to get it on Game Pass or not. That would be a nice bonus. But honestly, I just want them to bring back the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games. I never got a chance to play them when they were out.
What?
And yeah, I know, right? I think I rented it one time from like Blockbuster.
Oh my
And
god, you're missing some peak gaming, bro.
I know, I know. I think I missed out. Like I don't know. I just didn't play it for whatever reason.
Wow.
But I definitely am in the market for it, especially now that like with my kids, like that's a perfect game to play like as a party game. Um yeah, so I hope that it's true and I hope that they're able to get them. Even if it's not on Game Pass, I just want it to be purchasable. And I know that they're talking about the Transformers games as well. I think also they were trying to get the Deadpool games
Yeah,
or Deadpool game
the Deadpool
to
game. It was
yeah,
a
all the licensed games that
yeah,
got
including
delisted.
all the old Spider-Man games like Shattered Dimensions and all that stuff.
Shattered Dimensions, Web of Shadows,
Shadow.
what was the other one? Ultimate Spider-Man. That one, I hope that because that was my favorite. It was I was on the original Xbox.
Yep.
Yeah. So that and I mean that's one of the benefits of them owning Activision is that now they have access to all these licenses that they can renew. It's just a matter of working out a deal with Disney and or whoever owns the license previous or currently. Um, so yeah, we'll see if it ends up being true, and yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I think the last bit of news we have, we're going to talk about Astrobot because at the time of this release, the game will officially be out, which will be Friday. You can pre-order it now on PlayStation if you want. Astrobot is sort of the sequel to Astro Playroom, which was free when the PS5 launched. And the reason why it's in the news is because of the Metacritic score. It's been released to be 94. It's a really high and good Metacritic score. I don't understand why it's at a 94. And I'm going through like the actual listings of who it was like 112 different critics who reviewed the game. A lot there's so many hundreds like the game is perfect. I I'm sorry, but I don't think this game would be perfect. I haven't played it. I'm a fan of Astrobot. I've played the first one. It was a fun little sort of like introduction for the character as well as the DualSense controller. But to claim this as a absolute perfect platformer, I don't know. It seems a bit of a stretch for me. Um, they're talking about how this game is only 6 hours, but everybody's saying now it's sort of like game of the year. They're already
yeah,
talking about game of the year for Astrobot, and I don't know how to feel about that because the game is one not even out for the general public. Sure, it's rating high on Metacritics, which is sort of like a all right, whatever. It's just Metacritic, but I'm looking and I'm wondering if some of these perfect 100 scores or 10 out of 10 scores are even real. Like, are they just biased because one, it's an Astrobot sequel, and it comes with well, it doesn't come with, you have to purchase it, but they very nice new sleek Astrobot controller, and it's a PlayStation game. Especially after such really horrible news of Concord failing and Sony taking just essentially egg on their face with giving people refunds. Now they're charging you $70 for a 5-hour Astrobot game, and it's like,
Yeah.
is it really 94, or are they just trying to, like, if the gaming industry, like they always do, uh, put some mattresses under the PlayStation's fall, because they're hurting right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's people really don't want to admit that people have a preference towards PlayStation. Like, just in general, the gaming media, just everybody has a preference towards PlayStation. So, whenever a game does really good, they're gonna blow it up as something way better than maybe what it deserves. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in the market for Astrobot. I'm sure it's a great game. I mean, if it's anything like what people are saying, like, oh, it's like Mario Galaxy and stuff like that, then I mean, I'm sure I would like it, and I'm sure like my kids would like it and stuff like that. But I think it's no secret that there's a little bit of fluff going on when it comes to PlayStation games. Now, you can say, oh, but look, they gave Concord, they killed Concord, and they were very critical of Concord and stuff like that. But how many times does that really happen? When the reason why, and I guess you could say that it's kind of like the opposite effect. Like when PlayStation flops, they flop hard. So it's very noticeable when it happens to PlayStation, because usually PlayStation games get a higher I guess they have a higher standard, or they're in higher regard with the gaming media. Yeah, I think 94 is probably a little bit overkill, but and I think I saw somebody post about it, saying that if you took out all like the fanboy sites, which I mean that's always been a thing about like Metacritic and OpenCritic, stuff like that, but the sites that get referenced in these scores, they're like, you're getting it from sites that are always going to give their brand or their platform of choice a high score. So like if it's an Xbox game, you're going to get a 10 out of 10 from an Xbox site. Like that's just how it is. Same thing with PlayStation. So I think they did like a their own analysis of like the scoring and stuff like that, and they said in reality it probably should have been like a 90 or 91. Even when the Metacritic scores were coming out, like I think 2 hours before it officially came out, Metacritic themselves said they were estimating, based on like the reviews that they were receiving, it was gonna get a 90, and it ended up getting a 94. So I mean, regardless of all that stuff, this probably was the best thing to happen to Sony, especially after the Concord stuff, because like, and honestly, that's probably why they decided to like just kill it off early, because they knew they probably had a good thing with Astrobot, and they wanted to bury the bad Concord news with the success of Astrobot, so people can quickly forget how badly they flopped with Concord, and remember, like, oh, we still got Astrobot, and that's everybody's excited now. Yeah, what is interesting that you did mention, I didn't know this at all. The whole 6 hours to beat the game, like,
Yeah.
people were dogging on Hellblade 2 for its length, specifically for its length,
Yes.
and now it's seemingly fine.
Yeah, it's
Like,
perfectly fine.
6 hours is fine for a PlayStation game, and for a game that supposedly rivals Mario Galaxy and Odyssey and all the other Mario games. Like 6 hours? I don't think the Mario games are 6 hours.
No, so
But
Mario Odyssey is like a 25-hour game to 30
yeah.
game. And
Now
that got a Metacritic score of 97.
Yeah.
You
So
know, nearly perfect. That one was nearly perfect.
yeah. But I mean, this is not to say like, oh, if they made it longer, then it would be worth it or whatever. Like, I mean, a game's length is a game's length.
Yeah.
And I don't think it costs. It doesn't cost 70, does it?
Yeah,
Astrobot? It does?
I believe so.
Oh boy. But yeah, I'm not one to dictate like time makes a game better or worse or whatever. Like if the game is good, the game is good. I just wish people wouldn't be so they wouldn't have a double standard about it, but I get that that's too much to ask for.
Oh,
Um
real quick, I'm sorry. We're gonna make a quick adjustment. It's not $70. It is $60.
oh, it's $60. Okay. I mean, that's
And
still
$10 for every hour you play the game.
yeah, so regardless, this is good news, and I'm glad that the game is it's shaping up to be a success for Sony. Especially in a year where it's literally been up and down this year for them. So,
I mean, this is literally the only first party PlayStation game that's come out this year.
well, Concord.
Oh no, that's releasing on PC. I'm talking about just
Oh, yeah,
console.
yeah. For yeah,
No
console
other,
exclusive.
no other PlayStation game has come out that's exclusive to PlayStation besides Astrobot. So, the sort of gaming media has to sort of help Sony out on a little win because this is literally the only game that PlayStation has all year.
Yeah, and we already know that this is they. I mean, I think Jeff Keighley was like posting a whole freaking dissertation about it on his Twitter. Like, you already know this is winning game of the year. It really doesn't matter what any other game comes out. It doesn't matter. This is winning game of the year. Like, that's it. So get ready. I'm telling you right now. It is well. By the time this airs, this is the 7th of September when you're listening to this. It's gonna be game of the year. It's just gonna happen because it didn't. PlayStation didn't win last year, so they need to win this year. It's just they got to. Actually, they didn't win the last 2 years.
Well,
Right.
either way. I mean, I do. I not. We're not sitting here talking about Astrobot and like digging on the game. I'm sure it's gonna be a good game. I'm sure it's gonna play well, and I'm sure it will sell well. That's not the point of this. The point of this was to talk about
Honestly,
how,
it better sell well. Like
yeah,
for all this like hype and stuff like that, it better freaking sell gangbusters.
it better sell at least better than Concord.
Because I think that's one of the well, granted, it was the VR game. Because what was it? Astrobot Rescue Mission also got a lot of praise, but it didn't
Yeah,
sell well. But that was mostly because of the VR stuff. But anyway,
yeah, yeah. VR is dead, just like Concord. Um, yeah. So I wanted to we're not sitting here to dig on PlayStation and dig on Astrobot. It was just to show that there's a lot of media bias when it comes to PlayStation and their games, because even a game that died like Concord still reviewed favorably. It was still reviewed favorably, even though it wasn't liked by the consumers and brought by the consumers. They still reviewed it favorably, which
yeah,
is
people were trying to be like very light on it, and even there was like a whole thing about I think it's PC Gamer that they were saying, "Oh, we gotta stop being such bullies and
yeah.
judging games quickly." Meanwhile, when Redfall released, they were dogging on it like crazy.
They were doing
So
2 articles every hour.
yeah, about
You know?
basically running laps around the failure that was Redfall.
Yeah. So it was to point out the sort of double standard in the gaming media of how they treat PlayStation first party games and sort of the hypocrisy behind it, you know.
Yeah,
Because ultimately I'm probably gonna end up buying Astrobot. My son loves the game. He loves the playroom. He played a ton of it. He's probably gonna want this. As long as he's doing good in school, I'll probably pick it up for him. And it's
yeah.
not, like I said, I
It's a
know
good
it
it's a
will do
good
well.
like Christmas gift and stuff like that. So
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you know what? I'll wait for Christmas. Hopefully it'll be on sale.
there you go.
That's it. Well, that's all we have for the news today. It was a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, and yeah, I feel bad because it's like I want to give it the time and stuff like that, but it's like I mean, granted, there's no time limit for us recording, but it's like I think there was once, didn't we record for like 3 hours or something like that when we were breaking down the trailers?
Yeah,
We were doing the tier list. That's what it was. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
almost like 4 hours. Yeah, I don't want to do that. That'll do it for us. Remember, you can like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening to a podcast or listening on a podcast app, you can rate us and share us because that will help us out a lot. And remember to support our sponsors. The links are in the description. And that's it. We will see you guys next week. Peace.
Peace out.